G'day everyone, I'm David Reidy, and welcome to Piano Finally, a podcast by an old bloke who's getting around to learning the piano. Finally. Welcome to show 12. Thank you for joining me. If this is the first time you've heard the show, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. The Kawai NV10 is still silent. Stan, the technician, had me try a couple of things to see if it was something that could be ironed out without another trip up the mountains, but no luck. So we're going to schedule another afternoon. It'll be hard to fit in this week. We're running the Vinnie's Winter Sleep Out, where around 70 of our student volunteers sleep outside overnight to build empathy with homeless people. I'll be spending the night supervising. This is combined with fundraising for the less well-off in our local area. It's a great way of raising awareness, but I don't expect to be getting much sleep next Friday. While I was trying things out on the Kawai, I found that you can remove the fall board and see the mechanism inside the piano. I resisted the urge to do anything more than look while tapping the keys. It made me think that I'd like a grand piano so I can watch everything working. Practicing on the Roland is going well. Using the Pianoteq software has added some interest to sitting at the keyboard, but I've decided I need to get much more organised for each practice session. More about that later in the episode. This week's YouTube suggestion is Hong Kong-born concert pianist Tiffany Poon's channel. As a pianist, Tiffany is an expert in the music of Robert Schumann, and her website includes a documentary about Schumann and his music. You can find that documentary on YouTube too. Although the channel contains many performances of pieces by a wide range of composers, that's not the main reason I'm suggesting it. I'm a fan of the channel because it gives an insight into the life of a successful classical pianist. Tiffany released her first album earlier this year, and as she mentions in one of her recent videos, since she signed up with a professional management company, the opportunities for her to perform in cities around the world have increased. Each of her debuts in a new city is accompanied by a vlog of her preparing for the concert. She shows the process of deciding on which instrument will be used for the performance. I'd never thought that there would be a range of Steinway grand pianos from which to choose at any venue, but apparently they have them stacked up out the back. In the videos, Tiffany speaks openly about the challenges and struggles, as well as the joy of being a professional pianist. Her insights are a great way to start understanding the lives of those sitting on the bench at the front of the stage. Tiffany's performances are great and range widely, including many of the standard classical piano repertoire, but with enough other works to ensure you hear something different. You can also listen to her on Apple Music and other music streaming services. Planning to practice. At least once a day, you sit down at the piano to practice. At least it's meant to be once a day, but life's busy and sometimes you miss. But let's assume that you're going to get to practice fairly often. You're sitting there, but what are you going to do? The problem I have when sitting down to practice is deciding what to do and working out where I'm up to with everything. There are scales to do, pieces to practice, probably some exercises I should be working through, and points from my piano teacher that I'm meant to keep in mind. And, at the same time, I really have to concentrate on what I'm doing so my mind doesn't wander and I make mistakes. Since practice is either first thing in the morning or when I'm home from work and feeling a bit tired, keeping track of a coherent practice routine can be hard. I've tried a practice diary, but it has proved ineffective because it needs to be filled out after each session. And if that's in the morning, I'm usually leaving immediately after I finish playing so I can fit in as much practice as possible. Nothing gets recorded in the diary, and then I don't put the next session in because it's not accurate. So I've decided that the diary isn't my style. As a result, at the moment, I work from memory. Scales are important, all of them. Although according to George Winston, B major and B minor are pretty rare and should be left to last. Therefore, I will start with practicing some scales. At the moment, that's all the non-flat major scales, even the B. My piano teacher's instructions are to concentrate on making all the notes equal in volume especially those played with fingers 4 and 5. I play the scales in alphabetical order, not circle of fifths order. Yes, I know that if you use circle of fifths, the number of sharps goes up by 1 each time, but there's an easy way to remember the number of sharps anyway. Alphabetically, the number of sharps is 2, 4, none, 3, 5, none, 1. The first none is the C, and the second none is the F, which just has the B flat. I find it much easier to remember the alphabet than to have to use fish can't get drunk after eating bait and start counting at -1, and don't even mention Father Charles. I expect that when I get to the flat scales, I'll have to develop some more shortcuts. I start piece practice at the moment with my 2 allowable run-throughs of jig. Then it's on to my current practice pieces, Nino Rota's A Time for Us and a Jennifer Eklund arrangement of Pachelbel's Canon in D. The Rota piece is in today's practice recording, but I'm not ready to show off the Pachelbel. It still sounds like individual notes and not a piece of music. Once it sounds better, I'll record it and let you in on a trick I found to make it a bit easier to learn with its 2 sharps and the key signature. If there's time, I finish up with 1 or 2 sight reading pieces from the Paul Harris book. I'm finding them fairly simple at the moment, but I am using book 1 after all. That's my current practice plan. It's a bit hit and miss, and I often realise that I've left something out or forgot to focus on a particular aspect of a piece, so I've got to come up with some better organisation. I've looked into iPad software, but haven't found anything I like enough to use regularly. I think I'll program something myself. We'll see. Last week, I started reviewing the Pianoteq 8 software. This software models different pianos and other instruments and can be used with a MIDI keyboard to experience a wide range of expensive pianos. Pianoteq 8 is made by the French company Modart, and although it's not cheap software, you can try an almost complete demonstration version for free. This week, I'm going to look at just one of the instruments and how you can use for practice as well as for performances and recordings, which is what it's actually designed for. The piano I have chosen is the Bösendorfer 280 VC, the latest instrument Modart has added to the software and their most advanced piano model so far. In this part of the review, I will use the piano in its different default configurations. In a later review, I'll investigate all the changes you can make to the instrument. 13 different presets come with the piano, ranging from warm to bright, with further settings for classical, jazz, pop, and cinematic music. There are also modifications to the piano, with 2 different models which include felt added to the strings. There is also a player setting that simulates the sound you hear as the pianist sitting at the piano. That's the setting I use when practicing, as it removes the room acoustics from the model, so it sounds much closer to the room I'm in rather than a grand concert hall. Used with headphones, it sounds amazing. Here are 4 examples of the Bösendorfer presets, in order. They are warm, bright, cinematic, and felt 1. And yes, it's the Samuel Arnold G again. I'm not counting those as practices. Being able to practice on hundreds of different quality pianos is a great way to spice up even the most repetitive practice program. Well, that's it for this week. If you'd like to contact me, email is the best way. You'll find me at david@pianofinally.show and the website at www.pianofinally.show. In both cases, Piano Finally is all one word. The show is also on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. You can subscribe via any popular iOS or Android podcast application, or from directories such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube Podcasts. The show notes for this episode are on the website and include a text me link which will let you send me a message. So, until next episode, I hope your piano stays in tune and you enjoy your time at the keys. This week's piece is the same as last week's. It's the beginning of Nino Rota's A Time for Us from Franco Zeffirelli's film Romeo and Juliet. Progress has been slow as work got in the way of practice on a couple of days, so I'm still working on keeping the tempo consistent. I'm up to bar 9.5, but still trying to get the left-hand chords consistent. Because I'm using the Roland and the recording equipment is attached to the Kauai in another part of the house, I've had to change slightly the way I did this recording. I played the keyboard using the Pianoteq Bosendorfer 280 VC on the player setting with headphones, using Pianoteq to record the MIDI, and then used that to play it back using the classical recording preset.